張れよ。
どうしたのかね。どうぞ。
Did I rest Stolen Melly? What the heck?
Doうぞ。
Oil platforms, as was the case in Fallout 2, in order to preserve its chain of command in the event of war with China. Right? Except, of course, that's also happening as we speak. Just a week prior to the publication of this video,
Those 5 characters are kind of scary, aren't they?
converting surplus oil rigs in the Pacific into mobile military.
I made them during my attempts to cheat my way into getting the subclasses as quickly as possible. I said there's a cheat available online you can use that sets every enemy's HP to 1. I thought that would be more than enough.
I understand that a lot can change between 2024
It clearly wasn't.
2077. Given the information we currently have on both Chinese and American nuclear warfare doctrine, full nuclear exchange between the United States and China isn't likely to be nearly as devastating as Fallout makes it out. For you see, though the United States has a stockpile of 3,708 nuclear warheads as of 2020, Bulletin of Atomic Scientists estimates that China has a stockpile of around 500 warheads as of 2024. That doesn't mean that this number can't grow. The Pentagon claims that China is aiming for a total of 1,500 nuclear warheads by 2025. Pentagon claims Fallout is styled after the 50s, so if we play all using code, the United States had a stockpile circa 1967, 31,255. Even with that many warheads, nuclear warfare doctrine is a real thing, and it is good doctrine not to start a total nuclear war by targeting civilian centers of population. Here's why. So you have this huge stockpile of nuclear warheads, and yes, you have a ton of missiles with which to use it. You can't put all of your warheads on all of your missiles to launch all at once. You need to fire in volleys, and as such, in a total nuclear war, your first volley is needed to destroy as many of your opponent's launch sites and missile defense systems as possible. If you shoot first and can knock out almost all of your opponent's launch capacity, you have a very real chance at winning the war with minimal casualties. The Federation of American Scientists estimates that China has approximately 140 loaded ICBM launchers and between 300 and 450 total ICBM launchers. The US Air Force has about 400 silos with loaded missiles and another 50 silos ready to go. And, of course, we don't really know the operational capacity of, say, ballistic missile submarines. So even if China fires first and successfully lands all 140 ICBMs on US targets, it can expect a counter volume larger than what it fired. As such, it needs to prioritize a second volley fired quickly to take out US sites, or otherwise start building additional nuclear weapons capabilities, which it does appear to be doing. That's pretty grim, and so we'll give Fallout 8 units a point for that. This having been said, it's important to note that China is also the first nuclear weapon state to make a public NFU pledge, unconditional no first use. To be specific, China has stated that it will both not be the first to use nuclear weapons at any time or under any circumstances, and that it will not use or threaten to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon states or nuclear weapon-free zones at any time or under any circumstances. And to China's credit, even at the peak of their brinkmanship, that pledge appears to be both true and taken very seriously. China's nuclear arsenal is a deterrent. But of course, resource wars and desperation can change a lot, so what applies today may not necessarily apply tomorrow. What this nuclear warfare doctrine teaches us, though, is that nuclear bombs aren't likely to start falling on cities till one side or the other gets desperate, in which case, given current numbers of nuclear weapons, it's likely the United States and even China will emerge with major cities and regions unscathed. We see in the Fallout TV show that Shady Sands, the capital of the new California Republic, had a population of 34,000 people before its demise. The United States has well over 1,000 cities with a larger population than Shady Sands. And thus, even if every Chinese warhead is the largest nuke ever, the Tsar Bomba, which they aren't, and every single nuke is fired at a civilian population, which they won't be, and every single nuke hits dead on, which isn't likely, there simply aren't enough nuclear warheads in China's entire arsenal to wipe out even half of US cities over 34,000 people, let alone end global civilization. And China, being much more populous, is likely in a similar position to the United States. Even if all 3,708 American nuclear warheads target civilian populations and land dead on, there will likely be cities full of people that are untouched. The world is very large, and there are a lot of people. Inevitably, there will be surviving populations. Civilization, though greatly injured, will yet persist. Nuclear war is a pretty heavy topic. Given current world tensions and ongoing conflicts, the possibility of nuclear war no longer seems like the silly impossibility that it was in the late 90s, in the post-Soviet American hegemonic decade. We talked a bit about Sino-American relations in the 90s and about peak oil and resource wars, about nuclear warfare doctrine, all within the context of Fallout lore. But you'll notice that I didn't theory-craft a real-life scenario in which China and the United States do go to war. I didn't talk about the already occurring resource conflicts over fresh water or the importance of the Malacca Strait or Taiwan. And that's because, while the premise of Fallout is silly and fun and all but pure fantasy, the satire is rooted in reality, and real-world conflicts are no laughing matter. I can't tell you what the future holds. Maybe the world will fight over oil like Fallout predicts, or maybe not. Maybe we'll fight over water instead of oil. Or we'll fight for national pride or sovereignty, or because of the actions of a self-interested and corrupt world leader. Maybe it won't be China and the United States that end the world. Maybe the world won't ever end at all. The future isn't ours. No. But I can tell you one thing for certain. No matter what happens, regardless of the variables, oil or no oil, nukes or no nukes, there will be war. Because although the conditions of it may change, war never changes. I've been your host, Moody. There are a lot of Fallout-related topics that I didn't get to in this video, like FEV or Big Mountain or Vault-Tec or the Enclave. If you are interested in more Fallout content, please let me know in the comments. Please also consider supporting the Moon Channel on Patreon. It makes a world of difference. A special thanks to all of Moon Channel's generous patrons, to our sponsor, and thank you for tuning in to Moon Channel. Dear Moon, why don't you have any social media presence? Why aren't you on Twitch? Aren't you interested in being an influencer or having a more marketable presence? Well, that's a good question. Let me see if I can answer that for you. Each morning, a YouTube maker gets a new contract to sign. He tells his YouTube audience that Opera GX is fine. But 3 favorited commenters all are from the top sticky. More content creation is a thing they'd like to see. Oh, Mooney, 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 he don't wanna leave the boonies. Oh, no, 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 no. Looney, Tooney, Mooney, I'm so happy in the boonies, I refuse to go. Don't want no TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, I make it clear. No matter how they coax him, I'll stay right here. They hurry like savages to get aboard a new hype train. Brought to you by our friend Opera GX. And though it's crazy overcrowded, they're too desperate to abstain. Don't forget to visit us on Patreon. On Amazon Prime they will pay many bottle caps to see. Just to complain about lore that pre-existed Fallout 3. So, Mooney, 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 I don't wanna leave the boonies, oh no, 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 no. Mooney, Tooney, Mooney, I'm so happy in the boonies, I refuse to go. Don't want no Reddit, Insta, Twitch, or Tumblr, I make it clear. No matter how they coax him, I'll stay right here. They have things like the X.com, so I think I'll stay where I am. Creation, I'll stay right here.
どうぞ。どうしますか？引退ですね。
もっと力を先手必参りますわ。全力で行く。やってやるぞ。始めよう。僕に任せ。行くわよ。レッツゴー。行くわ。先手必勝。やるぞ。先手必勝で。力を張り切りますか。力を解放する。これを力を始めよう。準備します。強化発動。ふなるパーティーの準備します。
どうしますか？わかりました。どうぞ。登録ですね。いってらっしゃい。 どうしたのかね。気をつけるんだよ。
おや、君たちこれにするんだね。んどうするのかな。それじゃ頼んだよ。
原産の賜物ですわ。
どうしたのかね。どうぞ。気をつけるんだよ。
おや、君たちそれじゃ聞かせてくれる？いや、受け取ってよ。
レベルアップです。
どうするのかな。それじゃ頼んだよ。
どうしたのかね。どうぞ。誰を呼びますか。どうしますか。休養ですね。
You've got two problems. First, you know a kid whose parents are killed by an escaped rhinoceros, so he's living in a house-sized fuzzy fruit to escape his evil aunts. And he needs help. Second, your own infant son has been hit by a car, and the medical device needed to drain a life-threatening abundance of cerebrospinal fluid won't stop clogging. If you are Roald Dahl, you just sit down and solve them both. How? How did the same guy who crafted wild universes populated by gizzard gulpers and Oompa Loompas also save thousands and probably tens of thousands of lives by advancing science and technology in the real world? We've been conditioned to believe that scientific minds are cold, calculating, and logical, while artistic minds are fiery, free, and creative. Roald Dahl created messy, fantastic worlds teeming with weird people and unfathomable problems. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, and then he found a way to get his characters to a place of joy and happiness. In his own life, he was the character with problems, and he didn't have an author to write his way out of tragedy. Does navigating the world's problems take the mind of an artist or the mind of a scientist? What if the real difference between the mad scientist who runs the chocolate factory and the one who figures out how to split an atom is absolutely nothing? The origin stories of both villains and heroes are always pretty suspect. It's usually a lot more complex than one thing that sets a person on a particular path. But what kicked off Roald Dahl's interest in medicine may very well have been something that happened before he was born. It's also one of the most harrowing stories I've ever heard. His father Harold was 14 when he slipped and fell off the roof while he was up there trying to fix some tires. He crashed to the ground and broke his elbow. It was a pretty standard accident for 1877, and he's lucky it was just a broken arm. But what happened next was a mix of Shakespearean farce and medieval torture. Dahl wrote in his autobiography Boy that somebody ran to fetch the doctor, and half an hour later, this gentleman made a majestic and drunken arrival in his horse-drawn buggy. He was so drunk that he mistook the fractured elbow for a dislocated shoulder. "We'll soon put this back into place," he cried out, and 2 men were called off the street to help with the pulling. They were instructed to hold my father by the waist while the doctor grabbed him by the wrist of the broken arm and shouted, "Pull, men, pull! Pull as hard as you can!" The pain must have been excruciating. Harold screamed in pain and his mother cried out for them to stop. But by then, the pullers had done so much damage that a splinter of bone was sticking out through the skin of the forearm. After that, there was no fixing the break, there was no saving Harold's arm either, and it had to be amputated at the elbow. If the entire Dahl clan never trusted a doctor again, who would blame them? When he was 4, Roald's sister died of appendicitis. The penicillin that would have saved her wouldn't be discovered for another 8 years. A few weeks later, his father died of pneumonia and heartbreak. By the time he put a dead mouse in a jar of gobstoppers at Mrs. Pratchett's candy store, Roald Dahl's life was already defined by illness, injury, and death. And then Roald was subjected to his own boyhood medical barbarity. Real quick, this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. I've made videos about fallacies, paradoxes, and the complexities of human behavior. Understanding what we think, how we think, and the intractable blend of temperament and circumstances is an increasingly difficult proposition. It could be useful to talk through your challenges with one of BetterHelp's over 30,000 licensed therapists, and use my link betterhelp.com/vsauce. Just fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs and get matched with a therapist often in less than 48 hours. You can choose to do a phone call, video call, or messaging on a schedule that works for you. Over 4 million people have used BetterHelp to find the right therapist who will listen and provide unbiased advice. And if the therapist you're first matched with doesn't seem like a fit, you can switch easily to a new one at no extra cost. So click the link below to help support Vsauce 2 and get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. That's betterhelp.com/Vsauce. While on vacation to his family's native Norway, Roald had trouble breathing. The problem seemed to be adenoid hypertrophy. His nasopharyngeal tonsil, the lymphatic glands where the nose turns into the throat, was enlarged. Adenoids trap bacteria and viruses, then identify them to release the right response from the immune system. It's only a temporary system. Your body eventually fights infection in more sophisticated ways. By the time you're in school, they usually start to shrink and they're nearly gone by your teens. Roald felt alright. He didn't even know why he was going to the doctor. "It won't take 2 seconds," the doctor said. He spoke gently and I was seduced by his voice. Like an ass, I opened my mouth. The tiny blade flashed in the bright light and disappeared into my mouth. went up high into the roof of my mouth, and then the hand that held the blade gave 4 or 5 very quick little twists, and the next moment, out of my mouth into the basin came tumbling a whole mass of flesh and blood. Rold's surprise adenoidectomy came with no warning and no anesthesia. He was 8 years old. If his early life was defined by bad doctors, the end of his life was improved by a very good one. As he was fighting and ultimately losing a battle with blood cancer, Roald Dahl stumbled on Dr. Tom Solomon. Now, Dr. Solomon is a professor of neurology at the University of Liverpool and a director of the Pandemic Institute. He tweets as Running Mad Prof because he set the Guinness World Record for running the fastest marathon dressed as a doctor, and he set another record in 2014 for creating the world's biggest brain out of 687 people. But back then, he was a young man excited about solving the mysteries of medicine and preserving humanity and dignity along the way. Through their many long chats, they discover that Roald Dahl was a writer who probably should have been a doctor, and that Tom Solomon was a doctor who probably needed to be a writer. And their relationship started kind of awkwardly. Tom recalls in Roald Dahl's Marvelous Medicine that they met over a conversation about malaria, which Roald had been infected by while working for the Shell Petroleum Company in Africa. Dr. Solomon's international experience was at least as broad as Roald's, and he'd conducted research on the treatment and prevention of the disease. "And have you read any of my books?" he asked after a while. "Well," I said and paused, "I have not read any, but I loved the film of The Jungle Book." Tom doesn't say whether he was sincerely confusing Dahl with Rudyard Kipling, but Dahl took it as a joke and laughed, and became good friends after that. Laughter is not the best medicine, but it's a part of medicine, and it's a part of science and research and the long, winding path to get to new discoveries, new cures, and even just getting better at working with the old ones, because science is actually pretty funny if you approach it the right way. Think about Augustus Gloop. He didn't just commit the deadly sin of gluttony, he committed a sin against chocolate science. Tom Solomon writes about a common experiment in medical school. Put a piece of white bread in your mouth, just let it sit. After several minutes, the enzymes in the saliva you've produced begin to break down the bread, and it actually begins to taste sweet. You need enough time for the salivary amylase to convert enough of the starch into smaller soluble starches, and finally into maltose. You'd definitely get there if your gob was stopped by something designed to be everlasting, but yeah, bread works too. But think about what Augustus Gloop's rabid, unrestrained gluttony means in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Willy Wonka films. He's not just disgusting and rude. He's consuming the chocolate so quickly and eating so much of it that he never allows Tom Solomon's enzyme process to take place at all, which means the confections that Willy Wonka put his life into perfecting and producing never get the chance to taste their sweetest. Augustus Gloop isn't just a glutton, he's a cretin. A kid gorging on chocolate and half drowning in a river of it is funny. Augustus's ignorance of the science of savoring actually deprives him of the very thing he wants more of, and that irony is legendary comedy funny. The thing is, the more you know about reality, the better you can twist it. And that's just a taste of Roald Dahl's implicit scientific genius. When you savor that, you begin to realize that his true scientific genius was explicit. And it was probably the result of brain damage. Roald Dahl served in the Royal Air Force in 1939 and trained as a pilot. He qualified as a fighter ace through World War II. But a crash landing in the Egyptian desert destroyed his nose, fractured his skull, and caused him to go blind for 6 weeks. Dahl saw that injury and its recovery as resulting in what we now call sudden artistic output syndrome, or acquired savant syndrome. Someone has a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, and that unlocks artistic ability they never had before. But Dahl always had an insane level of creativity. As a high school student, he spent time in his school's chemistry lab inventing chocolates and packaging them into little boxes as if he were some kind of mad scientist running his own chocolate factory. But Dr. Solomon says it's possible that Dahl's brain injury sprinkled some magic on an already existing talent. It may well be that the head trauma caused mild damage to the frontal lobes of Dahl's brain, affecting his character and personality and releasing him from some of the inbuilt inhibitions that normally hold people back. Dahl was obsessed with medicine and how the brain worked, his own and everyone else's. He needed every bit of that knowledge when his 4-month-old son's stroller was hit by a New York City taxi. The injury resulted in severe hydrocephalus, the buildup of cerebrospinal fluid in the brain. A year earlier, Dahl had written a short story called William and Mary, in which a woman's recently deceased husband has his brain transplanted from his body and attached to an artificial heart so it could survive, and there's even a single eyeball to allow it to see. This was not one of Roald Dahl's children's stories, but he was fresh off his own research into the intricacies of brain function. He saw his son and the doctors struggling with a constant churn of how to remove the excess cerebrospinal fluid, and the stakes were obviously high. The pressure from hydrocephalus in infants causes seizures, blindness, a whole litany of problems, including developing a large, severely misshapen head due to the malleability of the fontanelle. Even when doctors installed a shunt that could pump the cerebrospinal fluid out of the brain to relieve the pressure, there was a serious problem. The shunt's valve kept getting clogged by little bits of material, kind of like how your shower drain gets clogged by hair. Dahl was fed up with the procedures and the attitudes of the medical staff. Dr. Solomon quotes a letter Dahl wrote to his mother. "I don't think much of the tubes that they use here for this work, particularly the valve at the lower end, which is meant to open up between 40mm and 80mm water column pressure. This valve is literally nothing but a slit in the plastic tube. Do they have anything better in England? Something less likely to block and clog?" Well, they did, and they didn't. The original valve that kept getting blocked was called a holder valve. A Pundit's valve was used instead, but that failed too, so they went back to the original. You're a parent, watching helplessly, day by day and month by month, as doctors and nurses try to keep your baby alive. He can't talk, but you can see the pain he's in, and you can witness him going in and out of consciousness as the pressure builds and wanes, seeing one day and blind the next, and you worry about the long-term damage, whether there even will be a long-term. And you're a pilot turned spy turned writer. You've written some articles about your experience in the war, a TV episode, a bunch of short stories, and one children's novel about gremlins destroying a plane. You're thinking about writing a book about a boy who crawls into a peach pit and befriends some bugs. If you are this man, and your baby is fighting for his life, what do? Call a toy maker. When Dahl talked about it, he suggested that he really just made a few connections and provided some moral support along the way. The truth is a lot more interesting. He'd been talking with neurosurgeon Kenneth Till about how a valve could be designed to address the blockage problems, and Till had even let Dahl witness numerous shunt surgeries so he could see exactly how it all happened. They had ideas for a brand new design. The problem was finding who could actually make it. Dahl's friend Stanley Whitten was a model airplane hobbyist and hydraulic engineer who crafted tiny precision engines for model planes. Dahl's daughter said that Stanley was a short, quiet man with twitchy lips that constantly pursed and relaxed, who was a brilliant metal turner who could turn a minute steel component to an accuracy of 10,000ths of a millimeter, which sounds a lot like a character Roald Dahl would write. But the pumps in those minuscule plane engines Wade created never got blocked. Dahl and Wade started sketching out designs for how a new valve might work, and they collaborated with Till and specialists in the United States to refine it. Dahl wrote that he saw Wade nearly every day for 3 years. The end result was the Wade-Dahl-Till valve, a cerebral shunt valve their article in The Lancet described as having low resistance, ease of sterilization, no reflux, robust construction, and negligible risk of blockage. The valve was developed as a low-cost solution that could be used in developing countries, and thousands of children worldwide fitted with the device, including Dahl's own godson. None of the men wanted to make any money off the device. Affordability was everything to them. They charged more in Western countries to subsidize the cost in developing countries. They established the Children's Research Fund at a London Children's Hospital and granted the charity exclusive rights to manufacture the valve to ensure its cheap global availability. When Tom Solomon was researching his book, he found a note handwritten in pencil indicating that Roald Dahl had actually written the draft of the Lancet article. He wasn't credited as a co-author, because he didn't need to be. To him, he was just a concerned father and a quirky author who was making a few connections. He left out the part about studying the problem during a time of severe distress, conceiving the solution, identifying and putting together a team of experts on the scientific, industrial, and manufacturing sides, raising the money for it all, and then helping to market the use of the device worldwide. In 1981, Dahl wrote George's Marvelous Medicine, about an 8-year-old boy named George Cranky, who mixes up 44 different ingredients including horseradish, floor polish, lipstick, antifreeze, and toothpaste into an elixir that turns his grandmother to a giant. Dedicated the book to doctors everywhere. And that's the incredible story of Roald Dahl's second most influential scientific impact. Roald married the actress Patricia Neal in 1953. She was already one of Hollywood's most recognizable figures, and she won the Oscar for Best Actress for her role in HUD just 2 years after her infant son's accident. But in 1965, she suffered a series of cerebral hemorrhages. She was only 39, and she was pregnant with her and Dahl's 5th child. The strokes put her in a coma for 3 weeks, and Variety magazine even ran an article about her death. But she did not die. She was left with Broca's aphasia, also called expressive aphasia, in which the speech centers in the left side of the brain malfunction. She also had some symptoms of Wernicke's aphasia, which affected her ability to understand language. So imagine not being able to read or understand more than short bits in conversation, which you may not remember for more than a few seconds, as you know exactly what you want to say while not being able to think of the words to use. Dahl wrote in an article for Ladies' Home Journal called My Wife Patricia Neal that when she couldn't find the right words, she would invent them. He published a sample conversation between Pat and some friends.
Listen, will someone get me another sooty swatch?
A what?
Oh, you know, a soap driver.
You want a big soap driver or a small one?
Oh, come on. You know quite well what I want.
What?
A red hair dryer.
You want another drink, don't you?
That's right. A drink. A drink.
Why didn't you say so?
You make me skitch. That's what you do. Give me the sinkers.
It's a comical scene, but it's also tragic. Dahl was concerned about learned helplessness or learned non-use during Pat's recovery. Every time she pointed to an object instead of saying its actual name, her recovery would be derailed that much more. Every time someone suggested the right word to facilitate the conversation or to soothe Pat's frustration, the worse it would be for her. His solution was to basically become Miss Trunchbull. That actually went against the doctor's recommendations. They said 1 hour of intensive speech therapy a day was optimal, and more than that could actually slow her recovery. Dahl didn't buy it. He forced her to endure the difficulties with speech, not letting up until she got the right words, and it started the moment she got out of bed. The motto was, no self-pity and no sympathy. In that same Ladies' Home Journal article, Dahl described how Pat wanted an obligon, which turned out to be a cigarette. By the end of the exchange, she had a sense of what a cigarette was, enough to say,
I'll go crazy if I don't have one. I'll jake my diodals.
everyone knows there's only one way to stop jaking your diodals. Doll organized a stream of friends and neighbors who came by each day to talk with Pat, turning obligons into cigarettes and soap drivers into drinks. She relearned letters and numbers and began to process short sentences in newspapers. She went to the theater to see the Beatles film Help, but couldn't understand any of it. Constantly subjecting her to a full life she wasn't ready for was uncomfortable for friends and for family, and the whole thing seemed cruel. It was so upsetting that Pat said, I've lost my mind. I really have, and the babies all know it. Couldn't they find a balance between getting Pat to improve without her having to have such a hard time with it all? No, not really. Barry Farrell of Life magazine was there to document the whole process, which eventually became the book, Pat and Roll. She had a perfectly healthy baby, and Doll said about her progress that the devil is losing his grip, and a former makeup counter attendant joined Roll to pry the rest of Pat from Satan's grasp. Valerie Ian Griffith had absolutely no training whatsoever in nursing or rehabilitation, yet somehow she knew exactly what to do. She spent the days with Pat really just relearning life, going to the store to get familiar with groceries and prices, flipping through magazines and gossiping about celebrities, many of whom Pat knew. The pictures in children's books helped her make connections between words and meaning, and the constant human interaction helped to alleviate her boredom, concentration, and inertia. With Roll as drill sergeant and Valerie as a blend of friend and persistent teacher, Pat started to walk again. Her double vision went away. Her diodals stopped shaking. She had her life back, and she wasn't just able to return to acting, she was nominated for another Oscar just 3 years later. Their intense therapeutic regimen turned into Valerie's book, A Stroke in the Family, a how-to guide for family and friends to rehabilitate loved ones, and that laid the groundwork for the adoption of their intensive methods worldwide and the creation of the Stroke Association in the United Kingdom. Pat's marriage with Roll dissolved in the 1980s. They'd both been through decades of tragedy, including losing their 7-year-old daughter to measles encephalitis, which happened after their son's accident and before Pat's stroke. And although she called him Roll the Rotten, Pat maintained that the genius of his grueling, unconventional approach saved her. She eventually founded the Patricia Neal Rehabilitation Center for Stroke, Spinal Cord, and Brain Injury patients. More than 15 years after Pat's recovery, Roald Dahl would write a fantastic tale of a giant who spoke in gobblefunk, with mental confusion as feeling biff-squiggled, good dreams as fizz-wizards, and bad ones as troggle-humpers. All nonsense words that somehow communicated exactly what the giant intended to say. The crisp, clear delineation between the wild mind of an artist and the serious pursuits of the scientist is a relatively recent phenomenon. Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, and he also drew the Vitruvian Man and invented both the parachute and the helicopter as he studied botany, chemistry, and engineering. M.C. Escher, was he an artist or a mathematician? And Carl Sagan and Isaac Asimov spent their lives trying to demystify the cosmos as they imagined what might be out there in all its terror and hope. In the October 26, 1929 issue of the Saturday Evening Post, Albert Einstein said, "If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music." Roald Dahl left an indelible mark on our minds with Matilda, the Fabulous Mr. Fox, the BFG, Willy Wonka, and he also helped fix our broken brains in which those fantastic worlds can exist. We should not be asking whether it's more important to cultivate genius in the sciences or in the arts. The question we should be asking is, what's the difference? And as always, thanks for watching.
よし。わかった。無理だ。よし。当然だ。はい、解放します。了解、解放します。よし。はい、了解。よし、解放します。了解、解放します。やりました。はい、解放します。よし。はい、解放します。はい。そろそろ来ると思ってたぞ。朝までお休みだね。なになに？みんな頑張れよ。
いらっしゃい。
Oops.
そう。そう。Yes! Wow! Yes! Fantastic! わかりました。こうですか？わかりました。あ、はい。ええ。わかりました。ええ。わかりました。
どうぞ。誰を呼びますか？
よし。
おう。
おう。ああ。ああ。
Okay, so I'm sure some people watching are gonna say something along the lines of, but to Threer, you already talked about Super Spy Ryan at the end of the last Ryan game review. Didn't you say there wasn't enough content in the game to justify it getting its own review? What changed? Well, I was actually waiting for another big Ryan game to release. I'm still waiting for another big Ryan game to release, but man, it's been so long since I last talked about one of these games. So today, I'm taking a look at Super Spy Ryan anyway, to see if this Ryan mobile game can possibly be any better than the ones made for other platforms. And there may actually be a lot more here than I initially thought. But to start things off, what is Super Spy Ryan? Super Spy Ryan is yet another addition to the Ryan's World Empire. The game was released in April of 2022, and was developed by Sunlight Entertainment and Amazon Mobile. And that's because the game Super Spy Ryan is actually based on a 30-minute Amazon special of the same name. Now, something interesting to note is that the Amazon short aired in late 2020, with the mobile game following nearly 2 years later. Its late release seems pretty odd to say the least. Maybe it was made as a way to advertise the short and give it a second wind? I'm really not sure. They even came out with a ton of official Ryan's World toys based off the short, like surprise eggs, play sets, fake Legos, and even a ultimate ornament. Ryan's World Big Mouth Period Games. Multi. It's so strange to see that so much stuff came out of this branch of the Ryan's World brand. The whole franchise really encompasses every type of popular thing you can imagine. Hey kid, like Mario Kart? Well, now you can race with Ryan! Do you like superpowers? Here's great! Want Spy? Hey look, it's Super Spy Ryan. My hero. At this point, you never have to look for anything, because why would you want to watch this? We have some Ryan videos here. Go watch that! Huh? Why is a grown man grunting and making weird noises instead of just getting Ryan? Was he just not there that day to record some lines? Ooh, look, Ryan has an Instagram.
We escaped. One of our favorite things to do together is trying out different escape routes.
My son loves Ryan's World, and usually I'm okay with him watching it. But after the video of Ryan mocking his parents, my son has stopped mocking, including when he's in the process of getting in trouble or getting a spanking. He thinks it's a joke because of the video, but it's not, and it's hindering my parenting. Please be more aware of the videos you create. Usually I'm not the type of Karen. I'm actually the most relaxed parent, but it's gone in the way of punishment, and this isn't okay.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna play the game now. The first thing you see upon opening the game is the user's agreement asking if you want to join Jeff Bezos in entering Combo Panda's free gift card giveaway. Hey Combo Crew! Combo Panda is back! And to join the giveaway, all you have to do is give me your address, favorite candy bar, and favorite brand of white band. Then we get to take a look at this surprisingly well-animated opening cutscene. A cutscene that looks way better than any of the ones in Ryan's Rescue Squad. This is actually because the animation here was taken directly from the Amazon special. I mean, might as well since the animation was already done. Now we get to make our way to the tutorial. This game, play as Ryan. Run. Well, luckily, you don't have to. There are actually another 6 characters you can choose from, with 5 of which easily unlockable at the beginning of the game. I'm just gonna use Ryan for now. Awesome. They literally stole this sound effect from Race with Ryan itself, a game that came out in 2019. That's nearly 4 years ago now. Don't you think his voice might have gotten a little different? Yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just get into the game. Generally, the gameplay seems to be a combination of 2 games I'm already familiar with. Brawl Stars in its general gameplay, and Piggy Hunt in terms of its presentation. Yeah, never thought I'd be bringing up this game again. The 3 versus 3 battles, elements of the combat, and the little starting animation is what gives Brawl Stars vibes. But the actual visual style and opening of the toy vaults remind me heavily of the item searching from Piggy Hunt. The goal of the gameplay seems to be pretty original though. You have 3 minutes for your team to collect 50 toys. And if you can hold that lead for more than 10 seconds, your team wins. There's also a free-for-all game mode where you compete against 3 other players to get 40 toys on your own. There's quite a number of ways to get the toys. You could find them scattered on the
Oh shit.
どうぞ。気をつけるんだよ。
そろそろ来ると思って主張するぞ。みんな頑張れよ。 よろしくです。頑張ってください。ってください。どうかしら。それ、楽勝です。珍しいですね。皆さんなら勝てます。カグそれ攻撃です。
So these need knives or swords. Dang it.
元気になれ。守ります。行きます。攻撃です。どうかしら。聞きませんわね。元気になれ。お疲れ様でした。皆さんなら勝てます。とどめです。どうしましょう。大丈夫ですか？元気になれ。勝てそうな相手ですね。 どうかしら。スリープモード最後だ。どうかしら。食らわせます。歯ごたえのない。さよならです。お主と何を売るのじゃ。取引成立じゃ。何を売るのじゃ。どうするのじゃ。毎度ありじゃ。あ、また来たな。はいはい。疲れたら無理すんなよ。
いらっしゃい。休養ですね。
わかった。ああ。わかった。よし。ああ。わかった。当然だ。わかった。わかった。よし。ああ。よし。ああ。よし。
いってらっしゃい。
そろそろ来ると思ってたぞ。夕方まででいいの？なになに？任せとけ。決まったら起こしてね。